Hello, welcome everyone. Just turning on my lights. We'll get started. Okay. Let's pull this up for a minute. So my name is Liesl from Artist Palette, and we are doing the It's a Good Day to Pick a Pumpkin. So this is really fun, kind of more simple, nice, clear day look. Let's go through. I always have the same stuff. I always use messy palettes sometimes. But you can have an extra palette to mix on the side. White, black, phthalo blue, or primary blue, bright yellow or primary yellow, and then bright red or primary red. And the bright red is the non-orange kind, but in this painting, you can get away with it because there's a lot of oranges. Okay. Welcome in. Ooh, from Australia. Some people from Australia watching. Great. Okay. So you can pause and take your time throughout this video. Of course, replay is always available. And I'm just going to go over my brushes. So I like to start in the background and do the grass, like the hay and everything, in this large flat brush. So this is, 3/4 inch or about an inch long. And then I have a shorter medium flat brush, which is more of a bright brush, and it's about a number 6 or 4. It's kind of frayed. You can use this for a lot of that hay and grass at the bottom here. And I have a couple detailed brushes, which I'm going to mostly just use for the birds, the tree, and the pumpkins itself, and also the details on the wagon. Okay. So if we're ready to get started, let's do it. I'm going to dip my very large brush into the water, and I'm just going to dab it a little bit dry. And in terms of my first color for mixing, we're going to get the light sky filled in. You can see it's mostly a very, very, very light blue. So you want to pull a bunch of white to the side. So a nice scoop of white. And then we're only going to take a dot of blue. See that? So just a dot of blue, and you get the lightest blue ever. It depends on how dark you really want to go. It's hardly noticeable. However, if you want to, you can start off a tiny bit darker with one more little dot or so. Okay, so a tiny little dunk of water, not a whole ton. And we're going to go a little bit lower than halfway. See, because I want the grass to overlap my sky. So I'm just going to go back and forth, just like this. Make my way up. Very soft. It's hardly noticeable. And at the very top, so I went all the way up here. I can add one more dot of blue to go from the top down. Just taking a little bit extra paint and some water. You can get a little bit more obvious blue at the very top. Then bring it down a little bit into your previous very light blue color. So if you need to go lighter, the trick is to just wash off the brush. Okay, and then you just take basically white. See? And I go over. I just go over it and it lightens it up. Side to side. It doesn't have to be all the same consistent color. In fact, I probably don't want it to be too consistent. And you can always go darker. That's really easy to do. Just one more dot of blue into your paint color, maybe a couple dots depending on how dark you really want to go. Okay, so I'm going to leave that and just wash off this brush. Okay, and then what we're going to add is just a little bit of like a soft pink in here if you want to add some soft pink. While it's still wet is good. So that's a lot of white and just a little dot of red. We'll wait for that to dry before we do a little bit of that sun because it's got yellow. So I can use the same large brush. Again, pull some white to the side. Take a dot of red. So you get a super, super light pink. And I'll take one more dot. Since it's already kind of wet and really light already, I'm just going to use the thin side this time. So you can take a little bit more because when you put it on, it actually goes a little bit lighter due to all the white that you just put in here. So I just kind of lightly streak it randomly towards the top and towards the middle, and then stop because you can overdo it. You can change the whole thing. Okay, so I'm just going to, because it's very glary when it's wet, but you can see that light pink. Use the thin side of your brush and just streak it across, let it blend a bit with it, and it's good. Okay. So I want that to sit there. I'm just going to blow on it for a minute, and then we'll move on. It's always good to have a blow dryer handy. Pretty simple background, and the sun's going to look awesome at the very bottom of the sky. Okay. Okay. To start the sun, basically I want to use more of a smaller detail brush. So this is a number 2. With a little touch of water. Just take plain white. And I know that some of my grass is going to overlap a little bit at the bottom here. So I'm going to go a little bit higher, but still close to the bottom. I'm just going to do a circle. And the circle can be, really as big as you want. This is an 8 by 10. So if you do, let's see, a quarter, size of a quarter. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to leave that. And we're not going to do the little shiny bits coming out from it until at the very end after you do the pumpkins and everything. But I do want to start the grass because then when my grass is done, I can do a little bit of that yellow shine around the sun. So we can use a combination of the large and the medium brush, just a flat one. I think I'm going to use the medium this time, actually. A little touch of water. And for this color, it is very orangey, kind of brownish orange. I'm going to take a big scoop of yellow, and then I'm going to take a little just a little bit of red. Just a little pea size of red. Mix that, very orange. Then we're going to take just a dot of black, little dot. See how brown that is? Turns very brown. So this is good for like the darker parts down here. I think I touched blue, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Maybe not. Nope, that's a nice dark brown. So I'm going to add a little bit of some white. And you can just see how that's looking. Very golden kind of hay color. If you want it less brown, you have to just add to a small section more yellow, dot of red to make it more orange. Don't take any more black. And I think I put some black there and I knew I did that. Anyways, yes. So more orange, dot of red, some more yellow, dot of red, more orangey looking color. Take a little bit of white, just a little bit, and then see how that is. See? Very orangey, less brown, but I want a combination of both. I like both. So my trick is to just press towards the top, lightly flick it upwards. You can use a fan brush for this too, and just pull away. So you just press and flick, like more straight on instead of flat. Instead of like this, you can still do it this way. But you can also do it like you're tapping and flicking it upwards, so it looks very frayed at the top, a little bit more grassy. And they're just short little ones, see? Because it's far away, we want shorter ones there. And just layer it in. So the next layer, go below that. I think I'm going to work on this color, and I'm going to add in some little accents of brown after. Like the brown orange. So that was with that little dot of black. And as you go down, you can go a little bit more taller because it's closer to you, so you can see a little bit more of that layering. Look at all that layering. It's pretty cool. Just by starting from the top, working your way down. Then I can go back to my brown, orange brown, just a dot or two of black. You can add a touch of white if it was really, really dark. If it looks like this, you see it's really dark. You just need more yellow and red to stop it from turning more gray, right? And you can always take an extra dot of red. If it's a bit too yellowy green looking, it will balance out that and make it look more warmer. Okay. So picking up that color, I'm just going to very lightly from the back, just more sparse, lightly flick it upwards, and try not to take a whole ton of paint because then you don't get this really thick blob of paint. You can get more of just a lot of loose looking pieces of grass throughout. Just pressing a little bit harder on the way down, going a little bit taller again. And if you like this look, you can add with very little white on your brush. You just want to do a little streak and then just leave it so you get highlights towards the back. You can also use a thin side to add individual streaks. This is still very wet, so it does blend with it pretty nicely. If you don't want it overly blended, you have to wait for it to dry. You want more white to show. I don't need it too white. I can always add a few little grass pieces afterwards. There we go. Welcome in, guys. So I'm just washing this off now. Wash, wash, wash. And I'm going to go back into my sky and use my number 2 brush. I'm actually going to just take a very light yellow. So a little bit of yellow, scoop of white. It's very light. You can see a pattern here for the sky. We don't want to go too vibrant because it's softer. Very soft pastel kind of color. So here's my color right here. I'm just going to take this. And all I want to do here is just go around my sun, my circle. Make sure that, you know, it's a nice, it's nice and light. Great. Now I'm just going to go right up to it, almost blend it in. If it's still wet, totally fine. You just blend it in. Take a little bit of paint. So make sure you wipe off the extra paint here. And what I do here is I just go around, kind of smudge my brush around the sides, not overdoing it. Just picking up, this is extra paint. Just going around, going out further towards the top, not so much the bottom at all. And you can always go and put that white circle back in, don't worry. You just kind of smudge it outwards. You know, it looks like it has a bit more of a glow. Okay. So you can put a little bit extra paint just really close to the circle so that it stays really faded further out. Very glowy. So I'm going to take my white. You can take a nice little chunk of it and just put it, make your circle again. You can do a second coat when it's fully dry at the end if you need to. There. So it's pretty close in color, kind of the point. All right. Wash that off. We're not going to touch that anymore if we can help it. So remember, it was very little paint on the brush. I wiped it off on the side here. I have little extra bits of paint. I just wipe it off and I just smudge it in. So I just kind of press and I just smudge, smudge, smudge. So just one little thing if you want to play around with this. Also, a fan brush is really great for this. Adding little individual pieces of your hay and grass here. With the white. Just kind of layer it down. I'm kind of avoiding the middle because I know there's a bunch of pumpkins and stuff here. It's totally fine. You can go in different directions sometimes. Sometimes this way, sometimes the other way, or straight up. There, you get little highlights going throughout. Kind of cool. Okay, so one thing that we want to do before we start our wagon is putting the dark grass, so the dark part of the underneath where the wagon's going to sit. We want to put a nice dark brown. So it's kind of like a chestnut brown. And if you have a premixed brown, great. You can just use that. Oh, and also this color is very close to yellow ochre. Some people have yellow ochre and they're looking for excuses to use it. There you go. Which is a great color, by the way. So back to my medium frayed flat brush. See how I say it's frayed because look, it looks like it's broken and stuff. It's not. It's good. It's actually great for this type of things, for making grass especially. So I'm going to take now equal parts red and yellow, just, you know, a couple little dabs of both of them. You can mix right on top of my previous brown. As long as there's not a big pile, I don't mind. And then I'm going to take a nice piece size of black. And I have a nice dark chestnut brown. Look at that. I didn't mind mixing on top of my previous color because it taints it a little bit to make it a little bit softer and lighter, but it wasn't a big pile of the previous color. Okay, so that's my dark brown. And we know, or I know, you should decide and figure out where you want to put this. It's going to be, once you put this down, you have to put your wagon there unless you want to change it up. But from, say, the top here to the bottom, it's about just halfway or just below. So I'm just going to now, with a little bit of paint, you can wipe off a little extra. Okay, just lightly flick it up. A couple little layers. It's not like a perfect rectangle. Okay. So I think I'll leave that for now. Yes. You can add some little lighter ones with a little bit of extra white on here in front. Just a little bit extra accents of color, see? Kind of throughout. Okay, but that's optional. It just makes it a little bit more brownish looking. Wiping and washing this off, I'll probably take my detailed brush, just take a little bit of black and add in some extra darkness. And if this is too scary, that's okay. When it's on top of wet brown paint, it actually doesn't go just straight black. It just goes even, kind of mutes it a little bit. But anyways, this is optional to do. If you don't like it, don't do it. I'm going to put a few going this way. Just around so it doesn't look too perfect. We're going to touch it up after. So let's do the wagon. That was just black on top of my wet dark brown. I'd be cautious with that so it's not totally just a bunch of black. Here, we're going to go much closer. And let's bring it more this way. Yep. Okay. Wagon. It's actually quite simple. It's a nice rectangle with 2 circles. And then you just add some designs on top of it. It's just how much work you want to put into it, really. So for the rectangle, if you have a ruler or if you have something you want to use to make sure it's straight and to your liking, this medium flat is good for that. If you look at the full width, if I kind of like just press, it's basically the full width of this brush on an 8x10. If you're using something a lot bigger, maybe the full width of a bigger brush, right? Kind of similar. It's almost like this too. Anyways, I am going to use more of a, it depends. Like it depends on the color that you really want it to be more of, but I would start with a light kind of brown and then add accents of darker brown to give it more of a wooden feel. A little bit of white added to this brown that we've made earlier. Nice color. You can add more yellow if it's too red, more red if it's too green. That's just a little bit of white added to that dark chestnut brown we just made. Okay. So I'm not covering this dark spot. See how it's kind of just slightly touching the top? So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to press. So I'm going to go right around here, press, drag it across. Okay. Use the thin side just to get some streaks going through here. Cool. Wash this off. Don't use this brush anymore for now. So here I have my handy and trusty number 0 brush. I love it. It does what I want it to do for outlining. So I just take my dark chestnut brown, just added an extra touch of black into it to make sure it's nice and dark. So water, paint. These kind of brushes run out of water and paint super quickly. Just very lightly and go on the ends. And you don't need to make a perfect outline. I mean, sometimes, at the end, if you want to use a Sharpie and a ruler to give it more of a very crisp outline, great, you can do that. Okay, now dark brown again. So this is where you can add, streaks for more of a wooden look, breaking up all of this same color. And I would say there's not much rules for this step. Just do what you like. So I just added lots of streaks of dark brown. Wash this off. Then you can do the same thing and put little streaks of white. Even while it's wet, it's okay. You can do it when it's dry if that makes it easier. If there's a lot of paint on here, sometimes it can be hard to deal with. Just a little bit of white. And it just breaks up some of that color in between. Optional. You just go back to your dark brown if you need to. Okay, so I'm not going to do the wheels yet. There's some vertical lines I just placed, and then it would be nice to do some of the pumpkins and then do the wheels after when the wagon is dry. And you can touch up on your shadow underneath if you need to. So if you want to do that now, you can. If you don't feel like it's enough, because it's about the same, it's almost the same width as the top as it is the bottom, but maybe a little bit less at the bottom. So my number 0 brush. For the vertical lines, any lines you want to do, if you want to do, something different and fun, you can just take a touch of water and do some white with blue, so very light blue. That can be kind of fun. Oops. It's like the sky color, but maybe a little bit darker overall. So just a super light blue. I'll go along the end, just some vertical lines. I'm going to do 2 in the middle. 1, 2, and then 1 on the end here. Wash this off. And I like to take black. So some black. And just go on one side. You can cover it a little bit so it doesn't look like it's too thick. Well, my vertical lines are not as straight as I thought they were, but that's okay. I'm painting on an angle. Okay. Done with that. And then when you're ready, we can do some pumpkins. Pumpkins in our tree. It depends what you want to do first. I'll do the pumpkins first, and then you can put the tree more in the spot that you want it to be, so it's not clashing with pumpkins. So when we're doing our pumpkins, just try to keep it more, they're all different shapes and sizes usually. Try not to overthink every single pumpkin. So then we have like some white ones. We have some of those just mostly oranges. My trick is to, I'm going to use a number 2, just change the color slightly a little bit each time, and then we add accents of color. I say when you're doing your pumpkins, start with some sort of orange first, light orange. So yellow, dot of red, white, just a little bit of white. And then just take a dot of your brown, because it just gives that little extra oomph into the color and makes it more of a natural looking color instead of a super bright orange in your face. Anyway, just a thought and idea. Let's start with on the side here. So when we're doing this, try to, when you're making your first pumpkin, don't go all the way up here because you have a second layer. It looks nice when you have like a second layer going on. I'm going to add a bit more white so you can see it a bit better for the next one. So I'm just going to layer over top. I'm just going to do a layer over top and then kind of like a blotchy circle. So my next one, I'm going to add more yellow and red, go back to orange. And you don't really see the bottoms. Okay, so the bottoms, this one's overlapping the next one, kind of cut off. And it's going to turn up all of that detail and depth when we go over an outline and do accents. So you're just going to have circles for now. So I'm just going to make an outline for this. There's going to be a white pumpkin here, something like that. And then an orange one kind of behind it. So what I did here, I'll show you what I did. I made like an outline for that white one, and then I just blotched a circle for my orange one. So what I can do now here is just take white. And it's okay if it picks up some orange, because it's not the most perfect white pumpkin ever. It's got hints of orangey colors and all that stuff. That's just white. And then I'll overlap this one. So this one looks like it's kind of behind everything. I'm just going to go a little bit wider. Some of them are super wide and big, or even taller. Okay, back to some sort of orange color, the tiniest little dot of brown. And let's put another one here. Just overlapping. Don't worry if you run out of space. Just no one's going to know. No one will know. Okay, so now we're going to do some of the layers on top. Here's the thing with that. Just imagine some of them are literally on top of other pumpkins here. So let's just take it one at a time. So let's do kind of like something here. This one is, I'm just going to keep that one white. I don't care. Make a nice big pumpkin. Sitting right on top. And over on this side, maybe I'll just have another one. Not too far to the edge. Maybe my next one, I can tilt it more towards the side. Okay, then I'm going to make an outline for a white pumpkin. So it's kind of just, you only see a little bit of it. So like there's a couple layers in between. I'm just going to take white. Okay. So you only see a little bit of the top. And then you're going to add a little bit of a white pumpkin or something of that sort off to the side if you have little spaces. And there's a little bit, so I can add, I'm going to add one more orange one sitting here. At this point, just make sure it's fitting kind of how you like it. It doesn't look too forced. And then what I'll do is I'll just have a little white one sitting towards the top. There. Lots of blotches. Okay. So that needs to dry for a minute or two. And while it's drying, this is your opportunity to do the tree and to do some of the wheels on the wagon. And then you can do the pumpkins. Let's finish up with the details. So I'm going to take my number 0 again. Probably a good brush for this. And I'm going to take a super dark gray. So that's black with a little bit of white. A nice scoop of black, a little pea size of white. And you just get a dark gray. Black by itself is a little harsh. So dark gray is good for this tree. Now I know where my pumpkins are. So I'm just going to place it really close by, starting within my grass hay area. And then I'm just going to press so you can see it's kind of going straight up for a little bit. I'm going to have this kind of go, you know, not too tall, but you can go as tall as you want. And it just kind of goes off to the side. There. Something interesting. Not just a straight stick. So I just follow it up and it goes somewhere. So I just made this a little bit thicker down here for the trunk of the tree. Kept it nice and thin towards the top. So water and paint constantly. So I'm going to go up a little bit and start doing some branches. You can just do whatever you feel like doing. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. You could do your own thing, some sort of gnarly tree, or you can do more like a dead tree. All the leaves have fallen off here. You're just lightly pressing, seeing where it goes. Overlap is probably a good thing. Touch of water, more paint. As soon as you run out, it's hard to keep it going if you run out of paint. I'm gonna have like a little twig here at the bottom. You're just gonna let this kind of go over into the sun. You notice how I'm not hung up on making all the branches look like it's fully connected to another branch. I'm letting it intertwine. So for example, I can just let my wrist do a lot of the work. It's like it's hard to see. So it's so far away, you don't really see all the branches. And just build off into other branches. And usually they're not all just straight sticks, they're all doing some weird little dance in the wind. They're just going against, some of them are just doing like woo up and down. Very angular to make it look more spooky. Okay, so I'm just slowly building onto it. More water, more paint. And you can add more white to your gray if you want to have your branches to be a little bit lighter looking and not as dark, so they're softer on your canvas. Especially if you're afraid that it's if you're heavy-handed and it's like not working, just go lighter. These little twigs, they're not meant to be super obvious. Just adding more white. Yeah, I can just lighten up. Add some branches that are much lighter. And just short little kind of lines that I've added on the ends. Okay, this is super light gray. There, it already looks a little bit lighter on the ends, but you still have that darkness towards the middle and on some of your more thicker branches. So the thicker ones usually are the main ones that are kind of going through, and not too much of the branches are coming off of these branches. Okay, back to a lighter gray for some of the branches. Very lightly adding some little twigs coming off, overlapping. They don't need to be super long. They can be super short. A little emptiness here, so I'll add in a couple twigs coming off of the main branch. There. Now, if this is necessary, a good illusion, and actually a way to adjust anything, is going back to just white with a dot of blue. You can, it's almost like an eraser in a way. You can thin out and get rid of any branches that you're not a big fan of, if needed. I'm going to just go over some of the ends here. That can help. So what's nice is if you want to go above and beyond, just very lightly with a light gray. So that's kind of like the same light gray you use for the twigs on the end. You can just go up the side, facing the sun, and just give it a little highlight. And you can follow that up as much as you want to. Okay. I was just playing around with this, showing you how to erase thing. Just make sure that it's a nice light blue. And also it does help when it's dry so that you're not just spreading gray around, for example. Okay. So when this is a bit more dry, you can do touch-ups with your branches as you need. So back down here, whenever you're ready, remember to pause whenever you need to. Take your white and so if you have yellow ochre, you can take some of your orange again if you have leftover orange. Although it's nice to have, you just need a lot of orange at this point. White, yellow, and some red to make your orange with a dot or two of black. You need a little bit more red and some yellow. Just a lighter kind of brown. And I'm just going to lightly add in some of this around the area. I'm going to add a little bit extra white with my brown. I can just get some lighter bits overlapping some of the darkness at the bottom here. I find with a detailed brush doing this is a nice little addition to get individual pieces as well. Or some nice dark pieces. Add little extras coming off to the side. And then we'll do the wheels. Yep. So when in doubt, if you want to go back to your light orange, so yellow, red with some white, like we did how it's kind of golden from the beginning, you can do that and just place some of that back in. Usually just keeps everything consistent and together. So that's just this color. And then we'll do our wheels. So if you have something that you want to use to make your wheels, like anything like the end cap of one of your paints, that's probably a good idea. And this is more dry. I can just touch that up. So one of the first colors I'm going to start with is just white, and then we're going to outline with more of a really dark brown. You can start with dark brown and then do the inner circle with a white. I don't know what you find easier. Maybe I'll do white first. Yes, I'm going to do white first. I'm going to take my white paint and circle. Just go around this. And we'll do that. I want it to be right about here. So it's almost just touching the, you'll see. It's almost just touching that first vertical line. Plus white is a little bit more forgiving, right? Okay, so you just have to go over it. Make sure it's kind of thick so that it's not like a stick thin wheel. It's definitely moving. You can take this wagon places. Awesome. Let's do it one more time. Only have to do 2. Okay, so you can have it kind of the same. This one, it's going a little bit off, but it's okay. I'm just going to do about the same. Making it a little bit thicker. Okay. I'm just washing that off. So before I do the brown, I'm going to take more white. I'm going to do an inner circle. As center as I can do it. Just a nice small one. There we go. Okay, very, very small with that little dot in the middle. Still see the grass, and then we're just going to do some, it's actually easier, some lines going through, so it's easier to just go up and down first. Okay, and then side to side, from one end to the other, and then just do basically an X. Okay, and X. And then other side. There we go. Come back to that. We're going to do some dark brown. So this is our opportunity to go back to our pumpkins and just make it look more realistic. Even if you do a second coat on some of them, you can do some different colors. Anyways, you'll see. I'm going to take about equal parts, maybe 2 parts yellow, 1 part red. So it's kind of like a more darker orange. Yeah, I'm going to use that one. A little touch of brown. Small little touch. This is still my number 0 brush. So what you can do, you know how you can just lightly outline, you know how the pumpkins, they have like these little creases going through them. We're starting to do stuff like that. So on this one, see how it's, you want to curve. You always want to curve this and make it look very rounded. There's 2 that I've done so far. I'm going to take some white here and just highlight on this side facing the sun. Just add some more details. And then if I take my, remember the super dark brown? It was red, yellow, and just a pea size of black, chestnut brown. Yeah, that will be for, I'll do this at the top, just do a little stem at the top. You can use this to outline some of them too. So if I go along the bottom here, I'll just do a nice soft outline on some of these pumpkins and just fill in the gaps in between. Gives it a bit extra shadow. So in between these 2 pumpkins, just a little bit of an outline, extra shadow. That's all it is. Outlining my white one. Slowly adding depth to it. Again, just take 1 pumpkin at a time. go back to my reddish orange. We have this one here. Then we can, this one over here, I'm just going to add in some, maybe I'll just take a bit more red, right? Because you can have more of a scarlet looking pumpkin. And it's always handy to just have orange on the side at any point and some yellow and white just to, so if I take yellow and I add a little bit of white, I can have this for a nice highlight on some of my pumpkins. So I can just go around the sides and the tops, add some highlight in. Okay, so my white pumpkins, I'm just going to add in some of those creases in before I put another second layer of white. There, I just wash this off. Take my white again, because when it's still a bit wet, I just go around and it just softens up those creases if I just go over, basically over the entire thing. And you still have a little bit of those creases showing. And I'll do the little stems on these ones after I do the pumpkins behind it, so they're not clashing too much. Do some stems on some creases on the white pumpkin here. Very light highlights. You can use brown or orange. Washed it off, taking some more white again. And I just go around, cover some of these creases just a little bit, and it just becomes more faint. Okay. Yellow, red. Just going over and just, doing these creases, doing a second coat. I have a big pumpkin here. I'm going to go around the edges and the creases. Sometimes you can just add more red for more of a scarlet pumpkin look. So if you're thinking, okay, some of these outlines are a little too thick, the trick is just taking either white or a very light orange and just shrinking it. So you're just going over it and it becomes less noticeable. I would say more orange, darker orange with no white to give these accents. Or you add that dot of black, and that dot of black to make it pop out more is always nice. And you can always add highlights of white on top of your orange ones too, especially if they're closer to the sun. It's always a nice thing to add. Adding a bit of a stem. And just make sure your stems are not going all in the same direction. Just going through giving each little pumpkin more of a stem. Sometimes you don't even see the stem if you have what looks like a pumpkin is kind of more tilted upside down. All right. Now take a step back. He's probably got a lot of outlines. That's where I go back in, either with white or some, orange, light orange. You add some white to your orange. All the different oranges and with some browns is always good. Just to go in between a lot of your creases and cover some, just go right up to them and just kind of get rid of the obvious thick ones. So they're just softer looking. And then, if you're doing more of a white, which not all your pumpkins are perfectly white, they're more just highlighted with white and they still have hints of orange or some brown in the creases of it. Okay, let's pull this back just a little bit. Definitely put a scarlet pumpkin in there. Cool. I actually like the red pumpkins. I'm going to make another one look a bit more red, just for fun. Now, I'm going to put the white highlight coming through. You want to wait for it to fully dry after we do finish up the wheels and do some little bits of grass in front. So that is my dark brown. If you have any left over, just orange, add black to it, a little bit of water. And if you can very carefully just kind of go around the wheel. You can go right up to the white. You can cover the white a little bit. This is actually tedious work. And around the inner circle. Okay, cool. So your dark brown, touch up on any little pieces of grass with your detailed brush. For me, I just put some in front of the wheels, a little bit kind of going off to the side. And I add my golden. So you're just kind of recycling a lot of your colors. I'm not really mixing fresh a color every single time. The yellow with a dot of red, a couple dots of red, some white, kind of orangey with a touch of brown, just all the colors. Add some of that in front of the wheels. And feel free to stop whenever. Okay, so little touch-ups. You can go back over with some white anywhere that you had on your wheel to begin with. Sometimes a second coat will make it extra white, but I would just do more of the top part. It doesn't have to be super bright white. It's actually a little unrealistic. It's probably more of an old wagon where it's not overly white. There. And then let's do a little bit of, I'm going to do the birds after I do the sun rays. Just because I don't want to have it clash too much with my, when I do the sun rays, I don't want to drag a bunch of like gray around. I don't know why I've been drawn to the spot so much. I was like showing you how to do a little eraser type of techniques, and it's just been bugging me a little bit. Anyways. So you want to go back to your light and dark gray. So I do a combination of both, light and dark gray. So this is kind of like the light gray that we did for the branches on our tree, right? So if you just went and did some of these, it doesn't look as, harsh against everything close to the sun. Looks a little bit softer overall. Okay, so here's some light gray. And it's nice to just put some like little dots. Very, very faint. Let's go closer again. Like they're so far away. If you have like a one of those micro pens, you can just use that too. You can go a little bit darker sometimes. I just do a bit darker one. Water, some paint. I said I would do the sun rays first. I didn't even, that's okay. I'm just gonna do this first. Sometimes upside down. Sometimes they're literally like little dots. Over here, more of like a wide angle. Go back to some light ones. It's like they're disappearing, just like a little dot here and there. Okay, and then, just for good measure, you can just put a couple pieces of grass in front of your tree. There you go. Just back a little bit. And then the sun rays. Okay, so you can use, depends on the brush that you prefer. You can use a detailed brush number 2. I wouldn't use a super, super detailed one like a number 000. I would use maybe even just a flat brush that's, not frayed. This one would be too thick. Okay, something just like very thin. Touch of water. You can change your water if you want. And then just take white. And you'll want to just flatten your brush as you pick it up. So flatten it with some water, so it stays nice and thin on the end. So here's what I do. This is still wet. It's going to spread a lot of orange. I'm going to wait a minute and then I'll do it. This would be basically the last step. So just give me 1 minute. Get your blow dryer just to be sure. I'm okay with it being a little bit orangey. I've accepted it. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go upwards. So I'm just going to go more straight up like that. See? Out, out, like you're cutting a pie. Okay. Now I'm getting into the orange. Hopefully I don't just pick up a whole ton of orange. You can just go straight down. Corner. Side. There. Nice and shiny and bright. So this is like this angular, not really, I mean, it is an angular brush. You can also just use a flat one. This one's great for doing what I want it to do. And then you can just blotch in the middle of your sun. Keep it white again. So it doesn't look like you can see a bunch of lines in here, but that's what you can do. Mine is shining super bright. I love that. Then you can sign your painting at the bottom. Whatever you need to do. And show off your results on our Facebook page. We love seeing results. You should do that. Very fun and festive. I love it. So at Artist Palette Durham on Facebook, you can go to our groups, and under the groups, Artist Palette support for acrylic and dry, because we teach all sorts of things. Then you can check out on our Facebook what's coming up, more events coming up, more Halloween themes, more fall stuff, even on our website, artistpaletedurham.com. So hopefully this was fun and relaxing, and you put your own spin and take on it. I know there's different interpretations, so we love to see them. We love to see what you create. Maybe you'll paint along with me again soon. Thanks for joining. Bye, guys.